Welcome back to Pop Dissected. Hello everybody, long time no see, and if you're new here, welcome. In honor of Red, Taylor's version releasing, we're going to take a look at the original track listing to better understand it. Now, one thing I've praised Taylor for has been her consistency in theme, motif, and storyline within her track listings. Red, to me, however, lacked any cohesion in its track listing until now. Described as a fractured mosaic of feelings and heartbreak, we're going to look through the album track by track to see how every song actually conveys this, but not in the most traditional way. While not being a linear narrative, I found that the album is segmented by every 2 tracks, each complementing yet opposing each other in one way or another. If you're excited to hear more about the world of pop music and all your faves' careers, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to stay up to date on a variety of music discussions. Be sure to also turn on your post notifications so you can be the first to know when a new video is out. The album opens up with State of Grace, a track that expresses the overwhelming flurry of feelings when one begins to fall in love, ending with the lyric, "Love is a ruthless game unless you play it good and right," which coincidentally sets the theme for this album. Our second track is the title track, which expresses the flurry of feelings one has after they've lost their love, and they begin to reflect back on what memories that lost love brings on. The first 2 tracks follow the same idea, the intense feeling one has in regards to love, with the first being in love and the second out of love. This opposition is something we'll see throughout the entire record. However, this opposition, as stated already, complements itself too. Our third track on the album is Treacherous. In this song, Taylor describes the slippery slope she may fall down as she falls for her new lover, noting this person could have a hidden agenda or may be harmful to her. And we see that was true, as our fourth track, I Knew You Were Trouble, reveals that this love was exactly that, harmful. Here, she sings how she knew this person wasn't going to be good for her and may have seen the signs, but fell for them anyway. These 2 tracks, back to back, initiate a pattern we'll see for the rest of the track listing. What's interesting is the concept of having foresight in Treacherous, but regret in I Knew You Were Trouble. What's also interesting to note is Treacherous has a slight sensuality within it that's not overt. Paired with the lyric from I Knew You Were Trouble, "A new notch in your belt is all I'll ever be," one could argue how these tracks do in fact pair with each other and may follow the same storyline. Now we move on to the 5th track, the incredible All Too Well, a track detailing the devastating emotional destruction following a breakup. It's one of the heaviest songs on the album and one of Taylor's most raw, so it may be surprising that this track is followed up with 22. While the tracks before have been opposing but complementary, 22 just seems to stray in a total whiplash when listening through this record. A song about embracing your life, your age, and just having an outright good time. However, why I believe this complements All Too Well is 22 fights against the heartbreak, and it's just one of 3 or so songs on this album to be about pure bliss and fun. So one could make the argument that 22 is about living your life in spite of your heartbreak, despite the wound being so crushingly fresh. For our 7th track, we move on to I Almost Do. Here, Taylor sings about the gripping urge to reach back out to an ex-partner, wondering if they're thinking about her. She may want to give it another shot, but every time she wants to, she doesn't. So it's a bit ironic that We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together follows right after. To me, it evokes this idea that Taylor gave this person a second chance, and of course, they broke her heart and now she's officially calling it quits. Again, we're presented with such a unique mini plotline. The temptation of making it want to work again is presented in I Almost Do, but finally realizing that history has a way of repeating itself, so now you're officially calling it quits. Additionally, the bridge of We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together reflects the secret message of I Almost Do, which reads, "Wrote this instead of calling." Showcased in the lyrics, "So he calls me up again and says, I still love you." It's a tinge of irony that could even be satirical or even pointed at herself. However, now the roles are reversed. Stay, 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 the 9th track, has Taylor thinking about this idealized version of love that is perfect and flawless, and despite the struggles, they can overcome it and both stay, because true love can overcome the petty squabbles and nonsense. The Last Time follows, a duet with Gary Lightbody in which they portray a couple. Gary singing about how this is the last time he's going to leave her, and Taylor singing how she hopes it's the last time he shows up to apologize for leaving. I think this track opposes Stay, Stay, Stay quite interestingly. She asks him to stay despite the flaws and struggles, yet in the last time, evolves into her asking him to never come back because of his repeated leaving and promising to stay. We then go into Holy Ground, our 11th track. Taylor reflects on the past relationship, and though she lost it, she remembers it so fondly and all the great times she had. Even though it ended, and despite how it may have ended, there was still happiness after that person. Conversely, Sad, Beautiful, Tragic is about reflecting through a somber lens. It isn't vengeful, necessarily heartbreaking or depressing. It's, as she described, a wistful loss. It's interesting because this track, along with Holy Ground, back to back, show how we can look back at a relationship so differently as time moves on. We can all remember the joy, smiles, and laughter and be thankful we experienced that, but the creeping doubts and the voice you'll never hear again still echo in your mind, making you always remember it's actually over. I also think I Almost Do, We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, Stay, 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 The Last Time, Holy Ground, and Sad, Beautiful, Tragic could also serve as a 6-song arc. The wondering if it could work again, knowing you can't make it work, fighting the urge to stay, regretting that you ever did, pining over the beautiful love, but then looking back at this love with a kaleidoscope of loss. These 6 tracks really complement each other so well in my opinion. While I believe most of these songs work together stronger as pairs at times, I can see how the aforementioned tracks create a mini storyline within the Red album, thus serving as a bit of cohesion with a coupleted disjointment. Now I will say, following this, the final 4 tracks seem to be a bit more removed from each other than I had hoped when I began this video. Despite this, I did my best to see what parallels could be present and how these songs may be coupled together or related, whether it was intentional or not. Again, everything I'm saying are my own interpretations and observations. So the lucky one is Lucky Track 13. This song describes a young girl who becomes a star, before falling into the trap of burdened love and having her name trashed by the tabloids and then disappearing. Through it all, she's supposed to believe she's lucky because of her fame. The kicker is this track ends with Taylor believing she may, and eventually will, endure the same fate. Track 14 is Everything Has Changed, featuring Ed Sheeran. They sing about how upon meeting each other, their worlds have changed dramatically, and now they pine for each other and clamor for a life with each other. Now, I'll be honest, I did have a hard time seeing how, if at all, this was joined alongside the narrative of The Lucky One. I theorize that the story of Everything Has Changed follows The Lucky One. The starlet fades from the spotlight to find her newfound love, thus her world shifts and focuses on romance instead. Within the Red album, it may just seem to be that. However, let's think about these 2 tracks back to back in the context of Taylor's life. After Red, we'd be graced with 1989, in which Taylor would be plagued with the #TaylorSwiftIsOver party, before disappearing for a year and returning to the spotlight, crafting an album that at its core is about finding love despite all the odds. Though, of course, Taylor couldn't predict her own life. But it is interesting to look back at these 2 tracks side by side and see if they were looked at as one single storyline, it could represent and reflect the experience Taylor went through from 2015 to 2017. Of course, this is just retrospectively looking back at these songs. That's obviously not what they meant at the time they were released in 2012. The 15th track on the album is Starlight, a purely fictional song Taylor wrote after seeing a photo of Robert and Ethel Kennedy at a dance together. So Taylor wanted to capture what their night may have been like. Our album then closes with Begin Again, a song where Taylor reflects on how poorly her last partner treated her. So she's extremely touched how kindly her new romance is being to her, experiencing a brand new blossoming love. Given the photo that Starlight was of Robert and Ethel when they were young, one could connect the idea that their love was beginning, thus tying into part of the storyline in Begin Again. However, perhaps these 2 tracks don't even need to be paired together. If we remember our opening 2, they discuss the excitement and then loss of falling in love. Our closing 2 tracks express the excitement and then hopefulness of falling in love, where all the other tracks have been primarily filled with anxiety, regret, heartbreak, and frustration. But let's also look at our final 3 tracks, 17 through 19. The Moment I Knew, based on true events, follows Taylor as she wonders why her boyfriend is missing from her birthday party, and him ditching her when she realized she couldn't be with him. Come Back Be Here has Taylor calling out for her lover to return after they seemingly disappeared. While I'm not meaning to imply that this song is about the same person as The Moment I Knew, one could narratively interpret it as being about the same subject. She realizes the moment she can't be with this person, but once this person's gone, she so desperately wants them back. Then this leads us to Girl at Home, our final track, detailing a person flirting with Taylor despite already having a girlfriend. Now, I don't see any obvious way of connecting this track to the two preceding it. As these all are bonus tracks, they don't necessarily fit into the primary concept of the album, even if they were written for it or meant to be on it. So there you have it. That's my explanation of how I view Taylor Swift's tracklist for Red. What do you think? Do you have any disagreements, or do you see the track listing telling a different sort of storyline? Or is there not one at all? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I'd like to quickly shout out my channel members, Skyhawker, Daniel Barron, and Steven. If you'd like to help decide future video topics, get exclusive chat and comment badges, as well as receive shoutouts, then I'd love to have you as a channel member. Finally, if you love pop music and want to learn more about it, be sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell for more future content on all your favorite pop stars.